Hey everyone, welcome to the Anderson Bros Outdoors. I'm Jake, and today we're going to talk about the H10 Origin, aka the Ripper 2. Hey everyone, welcome back. As I said, my name is Jake, and I've had a few days to digest the new H10 Origin, or the Ripper 2, and I kind of want to talk about it. Some things that I like, don't like, really just go over it and look at the truck on the website, talk about the live stream and things of that nature. There's really not a set agenda here. The first thing I want to do is kind of go over the truck and the details, because I think a lot of people are missing some of the details. All I can see is people post about how it's an H10 optic. The irony here is that H10 is like the platform name, like VS410. The Ford Ice and the Phoenix is not the same truck, yet they're both VS410s. The VS410 Origin is again a VS410, but it was an Origin. This is really the first time we've seen Vanquish use an axle code or an axle name as a chassis identifier, if you will. So realistically, H10 is the axle type, right? You have F10s, H10s, Capra axles, all of those different axles are available on the Vanquish website. We first got the H10 name with the optic. It's called the H10 optic. Now I see a lot of people associating the H10 Origin with the H10 optic. The irony here is that H10 is the axle and then you have the truck name. So while there are some similarities between the two vehicles, they're completely different. One is an optic, one is an Origin. Again, similarities, absolutely, but they're completely different trucks. As stated by the three people on the Vanquish livestream, it is not an optic. As a matter of fact, that was the first thing that they said. If you buy panels for this truck, or somehow were able to get your hands on panels for the Origin, tried to put them on the optic, they would not work. So looking at the H10 Origin, I'm going to pull up my screen here so we can look at it together. We can see that obviously it is sold out. Now there's a couple of gripes that I have with this page, and as we're scrolling through this page, you can see that everything is kind of clunky on the website. I mean, there's a lot of really cool stuff here, pictures, GIFs, things of that nature, but realistically, I want to get to the meat of the product and then scroll down and see pictures and videos and everything else. Like, I want to see the technical details. I want to see thumbnail pictures of the product, the price, the options, things like that. You do have to scroll a ways to get to that. Now, that is super nitpicky, and I don't expect Vanquish to do anything about that. I'm just saying personally, that's what I would like to see. Now, I can say that my website isn't the greatest either, so with that being said, as soon as it was available, there wasn't really any information on it, and you scroll down to what you're looking at here, or what I'm looking at here, and you can see that you see a red Origin, which I'm highlighting, and then you see that you can pick many different colors, chassis colors. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different colors you can pick for the chassis, 8 different colors you can pick for the body or the panels, and then there's 2 different colors for the axles, which I think that they kind of made a mistake there. I would have liked to have seen different colors for that. Now I get it, scale, you're not going to really see a bunch of different axle colors, but it's a possibility. Right? If I wanted to paint my axles on my Jeep green, I could do it. So, I don't know. Another little nitpicky thing, again, I don't really care. It's just something that would be nice. And then again, you have the wheel color, which is also a different choices. Now, the interesting thing here is that the body panels and the chassis actually are an upcharge to get them a different color. I assume that's because that's a lot more money invested in those parts, and so making sure that after they send those parts off for processing of those colors, you know, if you were to cancel or anybody were to cancel, they don't want gold, they want bronze. I mean, it's going to cost them money. So it does make sense that they're charging $99 for the different colors. That's business. The other nitpicky thing that I saw people complaining about was the different color selections on the website. Now, I will agree with them because of one thing specifically. It is notorious that Vanquish releases something and it's immediately sold out. Like, you can look at their website and probably, just a guess, more than 25% of their products are sold out at any given time. Battleborn wheels are a prime example. Almost every live stream for the past 2 months. Winter 2.2 Battleborns coming back in stock. Winter 1.1 Battleborns coming back in stock. Capra axles is another one. With that being said, it is a valid point that you want the different colors, because we did see on the live stream a couple of different options with different color combinations, but realistically, we don't really know what some of these look like, and it would be cool to see that. Now, the downside here is that an image on your phone or computer really isn't going to do it justice, and so what you see on there may look good on there, and in person it may look tragic. And what you see online may look terrible, but in person may be extremely appealing. It's really hard to justify doing that from a Vanquish perspective, because that's a lot of money up front that they're going to be spending making these different color combinations, especially if nobody's going to purchase them. So moving into the Origin itself, there's a lot of really cool details that I immediately noticed, and so I bought one. I had been on the fence about purchasing one, and I've told a group of my friends this, that if it's an optic, a replica of the optic with a Jeep grill, I'm not going to buy one. The moment that it went live and I saw that it had something different, I immediately liked everything that I saw about it. It doesn't look like an optic to me, and quite frankly, you can take a Capra cage, put a different body on it, or multiple different bodies on it, and it's not going to look like a Capra. So there's going to be obvious similarities. They both have cages. One of the similarities that they did use was they used the roof panel from the optic on the Origin. That kind of made sense too. They already had the roof panel. They already had carbon. Why not just use it on the Origin to prevent having to do additional work? I think that the goal here, looking at it, was they wanted to deliver something that was unique while also being affordable. At least that's how I feel about it, because there are reused parts such as the front axle housing, the roof on it being another, and then some of the details within the cage. The reason for that is because they wanted to keep those specific things available for everyone. So an example, so if you look at the back part of the cage, you can see that this is very similar to an optic, but it's probably not the exact same. There's going to be differences, and they actually elaborated on the live stream why there are differences. Because of the body, they took the body and they put it on that cage. Again, there are going to be differences. The rear axle is different because it has the machine welds in it. The front axle, it didn't make sense to put the machine welds in, because you're going to take that $3,500 and you're going to increase it to potentially $3,750 or $4,000. And at what price point are you going to price most of your upper end market out, especially for an RC car? So yeah, I mean, looking at these, I mean, these are fantastic. This blue is, I mean, it just looks beautiful. I don't like on the optic how the shock towers are visible, right? So if we were to pull up an optic, I'm personally am not a fan of how this looks. You see how it's got the shock tower here is exposed, and you can see the shock. Now, the Origin is not much different. However, there are a lot of differences there. So if we were to pull these up side by side, you can see there are pretty significant differences. Now, the one thing that there is that's very similar or really identical, that's the bumper. The bumper is still plastic, and it was brought up on the Vanquish live stream that the reason that it's plastic is because aluminum hangs up on everything. That's a very valid excuse, at least to me. The issue here is I would have liked to see an aluminum bumper come with it, and also the optional plastic be available for sale. Adding more time, money, investment to it, I get it. But that's just what I would have liked to have seen. So looking at the front end, you can tell that the trucks do have a similar look, but they're also extremely different. So there's actually lights in the Origin. They are the rigid lights, which are fantastic. The grill, I think, is way better on the Origin than on the optic. Even the additional Jeep grill that can be purchased for the optic. There's also a pretty big disclaimer here. I'm not a huge fan of plastic cages. I haven't really ran anything that I have purchased that's plastic, like the Capra or the optic, because I don't like how it turns out. I don't like the plastic getting all gouged up and marred. I don't really like the look of it. It's a personal preference. It's not something that I would like to impart on all of you. It's just something that I don't personally like. Looking at the two, there's quite a big difference. Obviously, from really the window line up, it looks very similar. However, from the window line down, there are a lot of differences to it. You can tell that the Origin is more of a rounded body, whereas the Optic is more of a squarish body. It has the flat battery trays, and then it doesn't have the rear quarter panels. Whereas if you look at the Origin, it's got the machined battery trays with a machined body line, if you will. So it does have some depth to it, but it also has a rear quarter. And that makes it, I think, a lot more appealing in my eyes as well. I think if the Optic had that rear quarter, it would look a little better. But again, that's personal preference. While they do have some similarities, I feel like they're completely different. Moving back specifically over to the Origin, one of the things that I really didn't like, and this is, again, probably something that not only I didn't like, but many other people didn't like, is that typically when you say something is in stock, that means it's ready to ship. Now, I understand all of the different variances and things of that nature, but personally, I feel like that when there was a green mark here, and instead of saying out of stock, it was a green check mark saying in stock, I feel like there should have been a disclaimer under there saying that there's a lead time on this. Now, if we scroll down all the way to the bottom, past everything, and look at the disclaimers, there is a small disclaimer that says 3 months lead time for anodizing and packaging once order is placed. Now, that's a pretty significant lead time. In my mind, I would want that lead time right here next to the green checkbox that says in stock. At least to understand that before I click spend $3,500+ on an RC car. That might just be me. I might be the only one that feels that way. Scrolling through the website, you can see that, we obviously have this machined chassis. It looks fantastic, and it actually comes in one piece from the factory, as they stated, which you do have to take it apart to put it together. So the reason that it comes as one piece is because that's the best way that they could ship it for the money. So, if that makes sense. The interesting thing here is that this was machined in California. All of these parts are machined in California, so I'm honestly kind of surprised that the price wasn't a little higher. Don't get any ideas, Vanquish. This is plenty of money. Moving into the front axle is really nothing that we haven't seen before. The only difference here between the Optic and the Origin is the Origin comes with different knuckles. So these outer pieces here are going to be different than what you can purchase for the Optic when those become available. And then it does come with machined rod ends. That's nice. Now, looking at the pictures, the rest of the truck doesn't actually come with machined rod ends. So like you can see back here, the servo link appears to be plastic. Now, I would have liked to have seen machined rod ends throughout the build. I will purchase them on my own to complete the build, but it's something that would have been a nice to have as part of the special truck. Everything else is the same except for the rod ends and the aluminum knuckles. The servo mount's going to be the same that you can purchase for the Optic. Scrolling down and we see the rear axle, you can see that the difference between this and the Optic is the machined welds, which look really good. So great job on that. Huge shout out to the Ripper machinist for making that happen. I did see some complaints about the front bumper being plastic and also the ram encasing being plastic, and I just kind of chuckled because it's pretty obvious that you don't really understand how this stuff works in real life, but that's whatever. I already talked about the bumper, so I'm not going to get into that, but they did state that the reason that the ram encasement is still plastic is because you can't really put metal with metal. So if you were to look at an actual PSC hydraulic steering component, cylinder, whatever you want to call it, or any other cylinder for that matter, you'll know that while it looks all metal, there are rubber seals, massive rubber seals in there that keep the hydraulic fluid from leaking out, for one, but also keep it from scarring up or marring the cylinder itself and keeping the metal from happening. It makes sense that they left it plastic. I would have liked to have seen it maybe have some additional flair. Maybe they could have made an injection mold and, collaborated with PSC and had PSC molded in there. That would have been a really cool concept. But looking at the overall truck and having developed and brought it into existence within 2 years, there's a lot of things you're going to overlook. I mean, coming from an engineer, I'll tell you that it sounds really good. Hindsight's always 2020. When you're in the midst of executing on something, you'll often be super concerned about many different things, and there will be a lot of oversight. I'm not saying that that's oversight. I'm just saying that I get it. Let's keep scrolling down. The Origin chassis details. So again, we're looking at the cage here and the panels, and one of the other things that we haven't talked about so far is the carbon fiber number plates, which look really good. I think the interior leaves a lot to be desired here. I understand adding something more complex would have cost more, and they already had the optic interior, so they went with it. I will definitely be replacing mine for something a little more scale, but you know, I can't complain about it. We also see the optic fuel cell. This is a missed opportunity in my mind. It is plastic, or appears to be plastic. I don't know if they touched on that or not. I think that that probably should have been a different color plastic, or some sort of something that set it apart from the optic. So I'm sure that there'll be other manufacturers that make something cool for it, but I think it should have come with something cool. The same goes for the air tank. I mean, that's kind of it's an eyesore. I think the fuel cell, the air tank, and the interior is an eyesore personally. Obviously, I bought it, so I'm not complaining that much, but I will be changing those things out. One of the other interesting things from the live stream that was brought up is they didn't want any screw heads visible on the body. So you can see here that we're hiding the screws behind the door, the makeshift body panel door, which is something that you'd see in real life. So it's super scale, and it's really cool. The other really cool thing is that they made the panel, the door panel for the battery or inner accessibility, to where you screwed everything to the backside and you don't see any screws on the outside. So that's really cool. The bump stops. So they did make the bump stops functional. They're all metal with a spring inside, and so they do have functional bump stops, which is awesome. That is the attention to detail that we expect from Vanquish. Scrolling down, we talked about the door panels. I'll probably end up putting a VFD twin in mine and adding front and rear dig, because I really like that, and I'm going to run it. We went over the carbon fiber in the doors. There's no body lines. There's no lines between the doors, so the gap will be virtually non-existent, and then there's no screws visible. Following that track, the next item is the Battleborn wheels, the X-Ray beadlocks. Now, this is something that you're either going to like or you're not. And I mean, I guess you could say that about the whole truck. But I feel like these wheels are pretty generic. There's a little level of detail. I mean, you can kind of see some of the machine marks inside of the wheel itself. But this is kind of another letdown, I feel like, because we're not getting scale hardware, first of all. Second of all, there's not a lot of depth to the wheel. Obviously, the theme for this entire build is Bronco based, and what was stated on the live stream is that when they were conversing with the owner of Battleborn wheels, he said that these would be the perfect fit for it, because these are early Bronco style of wheels, which is understandable. I'm just not 100% sold on them. That doesn't mean I'm going to sell mine, so I'm going to run them, obviously. But I will be purchasing scale hardware for them, and probably a different ring. One of the really cool things is they actually showed these wheels with the Battleborn Skarn beadlock ring and a inner IFR, and it looked really good. So I'm going to likely buy those and put them on there. Moving down, we get really just a picture of the truck itself, and this is actually the exact configuration that I ordered. I think I ordered black wheels with it. I'm not sure. I went to look at the order, and it doesn't tell you what colors you select outside of the ones you're paying for. So I did get clear axles. I got a clear cage. I got red panels, and I'm pretty sure I got black wheels, maybe clear wheels. I'm not sure. I think that this looks really good. And then I think we're almost to the bottom here. We're going to stop at the next section here. So this is something that I haven't touched on yet. The machined SAD shocks. Now, the SAD shocks get a bad rap for a lot of reasons. But what's really cool is they actually created or made machined parts for them. So the shock cap has a machined option, and the spring adjustment has a machined option. This is, again, the kind of detail we would expect from Vanquish. They are adding that to the kit. and they're all going to be red, so you can't really pick on that. I think that maybe a missed opportunity. We could have added another color there, but when you start making too many options, you start to drift really far on the price because of all of the work involved. And so I get it. This is more of a mainstream product than the original Ripper, which was more of a extremely customizable option, and there was only, I believe, 160 of them made. Anyway, so the fact that the shocks come with the aluminum anodized bits is really cool, and again, something I would expect. We did talk about the bump stops, which is really cool, I think. And then the headlights, we do get Q series headlights. I really wish Vanquish would stock more lights, or put more lights back in stock, because I do need a lot of light bars and things like that. The next item here is the transmission. So it does have the Pro Spec VFD, which just means that it's all aluminum with the plastic housing. It's essentially what you're going to get with the VRD Carbon. So if you build a VRD Carbon kit, that transmission is what you're going to get with the H10 Origin. There's a bunch of pictures here. These are really pictures from the video that they released of them running. I was so worried about being one of the first ones to purchase it because, again, the whole sold out thing, that I didn't really take the time to look at the pictures, and I kind of regret not getting this color here. I mean, that just looks so good. The gray panels with the black cage. Yeah, it's a mistake for sure. Hopefully we will see different panels. I know that it was stated on the live stream that panels would become available to people that actually own it. So I'm assuming that they will find a way to validate that you're an H10 Origin owner before they allow you to purchase the panels. Moving into the final section here, we have the specs on it. It's a 10 scale truck. We all knew that. Axle ratio. All of these are pretty typical. The overall width is just a touch over 8 inches. The wheelbase is 13.25 inches, which you will probably want to shorten some or run some bigger tires, because if you plan on using it for any kind of rock crawling, it will have a pretty bad breakover angle, being that long a wheelbase, and really using 475s is going to be pushing it. It's got the overall height, it's got the front ratio, rear ratio, overdrive, which is interesting to me that it's only 6% overdrive, because the VFD transmission, or the Pro transmission, should be 21.5. This is like the original VS410 Pro, so maybe there isn't any overdrive in it. That's a good thing to check for once I get it, is to see what the overdrive actually is. The kit weight without batteries is really a staggering 5.5 pounds, and that's not heavy. That's actually light. For the full kit, with all of the foam, boxes, everything, 5.5 pounds isn't much. Now, this is something that you probably ought to know if you're purchasing one. That's the battery compartment size, 92 millimeters by 36 millimeters by 40 millimeters, 92 by 36 by 40. So yes, these will fit. These are 68 by 34 by 27. So the battery that I utilize will fit in there. Moving into the description, there's really not a whole lot here that is not everywhere else. Everything was made in California. One of the really cool things that I forgot about was they actually put the California bear on the box, which is really cool. You do see the 3-month lead time thing here. I didn't actually know that was a thing until after the live stream happened. So I purchased mine around noon. I think it was 12:10 is when I got the email. I didn't actually know that it was a 3-month lead time until the live stream happened at 5 o'clock Central Time. So there was probably a 5 or 6 hour time period that, yeah, it helps to read. It helps to read. The excitement took over and got the best of me. Let's see what else. The kit this is a kit. Obviously, assembly is required. Yep, we know all these things. Required items, we know all of these things as well. And then we have the disclaimer, a very big one. And then this is something that people will complain about, is if their panels are different colors. Due to the nature of anodizing aluminum, the shade of color may vary. So you should have all the same colors with your batch. Now, if they do the panels and the cage and the wheels separately, they're all potentially going to be different colors. And it's really hard to not complain about it, because I would probably feel some type of way about it, but at the same time, you know, it's something that you have to understand as a possibility. Once ordered, colors cannot be changed. So there it is. They did say that they had a whole bunch of requests to change colors, and it says right here they're not going to do it. Now, whether or not they do it is on them, but I'm not mad at them either way. Kit requires assembly. Yep, we got that. 3-month lead time. Yep, we got that. Serial number selection is random. So this is one of the things that we didn't talk about. They are serialized, and on top of being serialized, they did state that it does come with an official MSO, title, certificate of origin, whatever, right? We don't really know what that looks like yet, but it does come with one from the same manufacturer that does titles in the United States. So the same manufacturer that makes your car title is where they're getting these from. And I think that's another thing that we would expect from Vanquish. You know, it's kind of a personal touch. So if you do sell it, you will transfer your name on the title to whoever you sell it to. That could be a way that the Vanquish team knows that you're now the new owner. It's hard to say how they're going to do that. Anyway, talking about the serial numbers, there's only 3 digits for the serial number. The first 10 models, including 000 and through 010, so probably 11 models, will stay in-house with Vanquish. They'll either stay with the company or go to people that work at the company, which is completely understandable. There's a lot of people there that should have one for brand support. So anyway, there's only 3 numbers for it, so the most that they could ever make is 999. Now, it was stated on the live stream that they're not going to make 999 of them because it would take probably 2 to 3 years or more to machine out the parts needed. For those asking how limited it is, the batch size is, we'll never know, but I'm going to guess that the batch sizes are in quantities of 50 to 100 per batch. But again, we'll just do some quick math here. 3 years to make 999 of them. That's 333 kits that they can make yearly or annually. Take that and divide that by 4, because there's 4 quarters in a year and they're doing 3-month time periods, which would make 4. So we take 333 divided by 4, and they're really only able to push out about 80 kits per quarter. So my guess is between 50 and probably even 75 kits is what they're doing per batch. That's a lot. I mean, that's a lot of machining. I mean, their machine is probably running 24/7. I would assume that they have people working through the nights and weekends. Maybe not. Maybe that's why they can only produce so many. It's hard to say. A good guess is that each batch is 75. They're really not even making a ton of money on it, right? I mean, that's 75 kits per quarter is $262,500. Really need to understand that you're probably only making 40% margin on that. So if you're making $100,000, maybe $100,000 per quarter off of these kits, you multiply that by 4, and you're at like $500,000 a year that you're making on profit. That sounds like a lot, but my guess is that they're doing roughly 75 per batch or 75 per quarter. So with the serial numbers, I mean, that's basically what you're looking at. You're looking at, even if they continue to do this for 2 years, is 75. You're looking at 300 a year. And there's max there will ever be is 600. But again, that's just speculation. I have no idea. They could use the return from this initial sales or first year, reinvest for new machines or more machines, and continue to pump out a lot more. It's hard to say. However, from a Vanquish standpoint, they want to remain in a hard to get market, because, you know, anything that's more challenging to get is more valuable. And more people want it. I'm not saying that that's what they're doing. That's just speculation. Let's see. And then the final thing. So the serial numbers are there. Like I said, I don't foresee them making over 600 of them. So even if they do make 600, they're still super rare. There's over 8 billion people in the world. Doing the math on that, 0.000000075% of the population will ever have one. And that's providing people don't tear them up, lose them, break them, whatever. It's just like anything else. It will still be very valuable, even if they made 2 or 3,000 of them. Now, moving on, I mean, there's really not much else to talk about on the website, but I do want to cover some other things. The original Ripper, they did compare that side by side. Actually, let me see if I can pull up a picture of that, and I will share that. All right, so here's the video of the live stream. They did do a side-by-side comparison. So this brings up another valid point. So what's really cool, and one of the things that I really would have liked to have seen, is that looking at this picture here, this is essentially a raw version, right? This is one of the first versions that they claim, anyway. One of the first versions that they did, and it doesn't even have H10s on it because the H10s weren't available yet. It has F10s on it. But you can see just how clean the raw looks, and yeah, I mean, it's fantastic. In this specific model, he did state that this does have the VFD twin. There is the selectable overdrive and the rear dig, and yeah, I mean, it's really cool. So I kind of wish they offered it raw, but you know, maybe that'll be an option that we can purchase later. However, what I wanted to talk about was the comparison between the original Ripper and this one. Now, this is what I wanted to show you, and it's kind of fuzzy, so I apologize for that. But looking at the difference between the two is crazy. It's a night and day. Now, I really like the original Ripper, but I actually think that the H10 Origin looks better, and that's my personal opinion. And it's not because I have purchased an Origin and don't have a Ripper. It just, in my mind, looks better. Now, the original Ripper does look more scale, I think, in terms of scale-esque-ness, if you will. It does have an actual fan in the radiator. It has a light bar, a mini light bar up front. It's actually a little bit bigger. And so I think that they kind of maybe missed the mark there in terms of how big the body is. A little taller body would have been nice. But the counter side to that is then you're going to have more weight. And if you use this for rock bashing is what we'll call it, crawling, whatever, you'll have more weight to fall back on. I mean, there's a laundry list of reasons why or why not they did what they did. So I'm not going to get into that. But what I do want to showcase is the difference between the two, and I like it. In my mind, I wanted a Ripper V1, and I wanted it to look similar to that, but I'm completely happy with how it turned out. I mean, the front end is fantastic. Let's keep playing this here because they're going to do, yeah. So here you can see that it is a lot shorter than the V1. It is wider than the V1, and it is longer than the V1. Now, as you can see, the V1 actually uses the SCX-10-2 axles because it's an SCX-10-2 builder's kit. The original Ripper didn't actually come as a complete kit. It was you had to buy the cage kit, and I think it was like $1,800. I don't know the exact price, but you had to buy the original kit, and then you had to buy the SCX-10-2 builder's kit and then put it together. You can see what was discussed. This one has the aluminum bumper in the front versus the plastic bumper, and again, I get why it went plastic. I would have liked to have had an aluminum option, but I beat that horse enough. The only real difference is I think that spare tire carrier in the rear looks really good, but that'll be an afterthought or an add-on. Anyway, I just wanted to showcase the difference. There's obviously a very big difference, and for good reason. So I know this video has gone a lot longer than I wanted it to. I just, again, want to throw out a disclaimer that I am not nitpicking Vanquish. I really enjoy what they've released. I'm eagerly awaiting getting my hands on it, but, you know, it is what it is. There were some things that I probably would have done differently, and, you know, Vanquish may do differently next time. There's always room for opportunity, room for improvement. When you have a small team of individuals, you can only do so much, and I completely get it. For all of you out there that are complaining about the price or how it looks or whatever the case is, I feel like you're just complaining to complain, or you're complaining because secretly you want one and you just can't afford it for one reason or another. That's really not good for anybody. It's not good for the community. This is a high-end RC for a select group of individuals that want it. It's not an everyday optic that you're going to see running around. And yeah, I mean, it's a niche RC for sure. Let's keep all of the comments positive and try and keep the negativity out of it. If you're upset about it not being the version 1, I get it. I was a little upset as well when I heard it was going to be an optic, but it's not an optic. I am happy with the result, and I cannot wait to get mine and open it. As I said, I'll do a live stream to at least open it and maybe put some of it together. We'll see what happens. We are doing a giveaway for a H10 Origin. What has to happen is you have to go to the website. There will be a link in the description below. You purchase entries because we don't have enough funds, and the channel doesn't make enough funds yet to be able to afford to give away a $4,000 RC car. In order to win one, you need to go to the website and purchase entries. Each entry is $25, and with that, you will get one entry per purchase. Now, you can purchase as many entries as you want. Once the entries are fulfilled, we will be doing a giveaway immediately. We did update the website shortly after the last video to restrict the amount of entries that people could have. I wasn't going to do that initially because I wanted to be able to potentially give away 2, but that gets a little messy. One of the other things that you need to keep in mind is that all sales there are final, so if you don't win and you try and do a PayPal claim to get your money back, that would be a very terrible thing to do. Good luck to everyone that entered into that, and I really, really, really want to give one away. So even if they don't come back in stock, one of the options will potentially be, I did order 2 kits. I got a red and a blue. So one of the potential options will be to ship one of mine to the winner. It's very likely not going to be exactly what you want, and it will have my name on the title. So take that for what it's worth. We really appreciate you making it this far. Huge shout out to the TABO club members, and as always, we hope you have a great day.